Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And filling in for Terry Stiles, I'm River Tuck. In this week's news, Blessing of the Quilts. A new bakery brings magic to Oxford, and Santa comes to town this week.
Stay tuned, learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. In accordance with the Michigan Zoning Enable Act of 2006, the Charter Township of Oxford Planning Commission will have a public hearing on Thursday, December 12th at 7 p.m. Taking place in the Township Meeting Room, the hearing will allow public comments and the Commission will present their plan for the development of a two-phased medical facility on a vacant parcel of land north of downtown Oxford. Further information can be found at the Oxford Township Clerk's Office located at 360 Dunlop Road, and standard business hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday. As always, accommodations can be made for handicapped individuals and the hard of hearing.
The Charter Township of Oxford is actively addressing the sanitary sewer overflows occurring inside the Lakeville manufactured home community on Lakeville Road. Oxford Township Supervisor Bill Dunn and Township Trustee Jack Curtis, Chairman of the Water and Sewer Committee, met with two members of Lakeville's management team and an environmental engineer from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy to discuss the issue. Although the overflows have occurred on Lakeville's private sewage system, Dunn and Curtis got involved due to countless resident complaints. It was determined the root of the problem is due to people allegedly flushing toys and other foreign items through their toilet system. Lakeville agreed to install a new grinder pump at their expense. Residents are reminded to flush only items designed to go through their septic tank. Anything else could result in continued problems.
A 44-year-old Oxford woman and her sisters reported an incident to the authorities on November 29th, shortly before 3 p.m. According to the pair, a Thanksgiving incident at the woman's house the night before turned heated following an overflowing coffee mishap. The woman's 41-year-old husband of 15 years allegedly became verbally abusive toward his wife. A confrontation soon developed between the husband and his wife's father and brothers, according to sisters. Later in the evening, the husband threatened the group with a handgun. All parties involved admitted to consuming alcohol. A report of the incident has been sent to the prosecutor's office for review and potential issuance of a warrant for aggravated felonious assault.
With their group of quilters, the Oxford Free Methodist Church's Quilters for Life made and gave baby quilts to Crossroads Care Center in Auburn Hills. Crossroads is an organization helping to provide free pregnancy, ultrasounds, counseling, and baby care to expecting parents. They also have a free store filled with baby needs and wants. During the blessing of the quilts, the Loving Lamb quilts are prayed over. According to quilter Carla Lambertson, they pray godly intervention will convince those who are pregnant to keep their babies and provide a loving home for them.
Monday morning, the Magic Brownie Box opened its doors, welcoming eager residents inside the newly remodeled space at 44 North Washington Street in the village of Oxford. The building location was formerly known as You, Me, and Bubble Tea. Oxford residents Paul and Heather Lepping have baked for friends for years, and once they saw the space was available, they decided to jump at the opportunity to give the bakery a storefront. The bakery is open Monday through Thursday from 12 to 6 p.m., Fridays from 12 to 9 p.m., and Saturdays by appointment only. Wow, that sounds good. I'm all for bakeries.
Yeah, that does sound good. More bakeries in the area, and I like that they're trying to fill a need in the area. They saw that there weren't enough bakeries in the area there were bakeries in the area, but that they were being overbooked, and they decided to step up.
Yeah, we had a bakery here in Oxford for many, many years, and then they just went out about a year ago. And so that building has been vacant for a long time. So it's good to have them.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody out there
sure.
has a sweet tooth. Check it out.
Yeah,
the other thing, too, is I want to talk about the parade that occurred.
Yeah, a fantastic parade, great showing. We had a lot of attendance.
Yeah, a lot of kids along the way, lots of candy given out, which they enjoyed a whole lot. Parents, of course, found the exact perfect spot to catch the floats. As
Oh
they went
yeah,
by,
that's
didn't
always the strategy, is trying to get there early and get the best seat. Yeah, catch the
Absolutely.
best floats. Yeah.
they? Is this the first time you've seen the parade
Yes.
here?
Yes, as starting here at Oxford in the school news position, this is my first time ever seeing the parade.
Yeah. And I want to say that River has done a great job here for the station. He's the newest broadcaster we have. And
Thank you.
A lot of fun to have.
Thanks.
And doing a great job.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up. Okay.
And that's Oxford News for this week. If you would like to learn more about these stories and others, you can pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader, or better yet, you can catch us on our website at occtv.org, on YouTube, or of course on your regular cable channels, Spectrum Channel 191 or AT&T Channel 99.
Coming up soon, OCTV's very own Cody Wright with school sports and schooling around, incorporating great topics with none other than River Tuck. And you won't want to miss Auto Talk and Science in the News with Dave Kenny.
I'm River Tuck. Thanks for watching Oxford News this week.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, NASA's Parker Solar Probe, which launched towards the Sun in 2018, has sent back its first detailed measurements from closer to the star's surface than we have ever ventured before. We already knew that the solar wind, a flood of energetic particles constantly flowing away from the Sun, speeds up as it leaves the Sun's outer layer. New measurements from the probe showed that the wind is even faster than expected, and strange features spotted in the Sun's magnetic field may help explain why. There are all these kinks and switchbacks propagating out from the Sun, which is very surprising and unexpected, says Parker Solar Probe team member Jasper Halikas. We can't see them from far away, but when we get close to the Sun, we just see zillions and zillions of these features. These S-shaped kinks, and hot plasma flowing along them, move far faster than anything in their surroundings. They can carry significant energy, says Halikas, so they could be connected to the larger mysteries of how the solar wind is accelerated to high speeds and why the corona, the Sun's tenuous outer layer, is so anomalously hot. While that probably has something to do with this fast solar wind, which blows away from the Sun at up to 750 kilometers per second, the Sun also has a slow wind which travels at less than 500 kilometers per second. The fast solar wind emerges from the Sun via holes in the corona, where the Sun's magnetic field points straight outward, but we have never been able to quite nail down where the slow wind comes from. Now, new measurements have revealed that the slow wind also comes from a hole in the corona similar to the fast wind. Coronal holes are usually more towards the poles, but there's one near the equator, and slow solar wind appears to be coming from there, says Gregory Howes, also a Parker Solar Probe team member. The probe has already passed nearly twice as close to the Sun as any other spacecraft has ever been, which allowed it to look at the star in ways that are impossible from further away, and the spacecraft is set to move in for an even better look. As we get twice as close again, we will, and even more than that, things are going to look even stranger and more unexpected. Nobody knows yet, says Halikas, but it should help us solve some of the Sun's biggest mysteries. And back on Earth, we have checked the pulse of a wild living blue whale for the first time and discovered something remarkable. When the blue whales dive for food, they can reduce their heart rates to as low as 2 beats per minute. This is well below the rates of large animals were calculated to have. Previous predictions were that the whales would have a resting heart rate of 15 beats per minute. The finding is particularly extraordinary given the whales have an energetically demanding feeding method, says Jeremy Goldbogen of Stanford University in California. During the lunge feeding, a blue whale engulfs a volume of prey-filled water that can be larger than its own body. From a large inflatable boat in Monterey Bay, California, Goldbogen and his team used a 6-meter pole to attach heart rate monitors to a single blue whale. The monitors were held in place by suction cups. The researchers were then able to monitor the whale's heartbeat for almost 9 hours. They detected heart rates of just 2 to 8 beats per minute, hundreds of times. The whale dived for as long as 16.5 minutes at a time, reaching a maximum depth of 184 meters, and stayed at the surface for intervals ranging from 1 to 4 minutes. The whale's heart rate was at its lowest when it was diving for food and shot up after it resurfaced, reaching a peak of 37 beats per minute. The reduction in heart rate during dives enables whales to temporarily redistribute oxygenated blood from the heart to other muscles needed for lunging, says Goldbogen. Whales then recover upon resurfacing by dramatically increasing their breathing and heart rate, he says. These results demonstrate the quite extraordinary level of flexibility and control that these diving animals have over their heart rate and blood flow, says Sasha Hooker at the University of St. Edward's in the UK. Recent technological advances have enabled these kinds of readings to be collected from free-living whales, said Hooker. These are opening the door to a much greater understanding of how these animals are able to perform some quite amazing feats of diving and exercise, she says. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
Welcome back, Oxford parents and students. In this week's edition of School News, the district is singing and marching its way through December. The calendar is packed, so let's get right into it. Oxford students and family kicked off December right with performances, events, and holiday cheer. Last week, the winter concert and performance season began with Oxford, Clear Lake, Lakeville, and Leonard Elementary Schools holding performances both in their schools and at the Oxford High Performing Arts Center. Leonard and Lakeville had outstanding performances on Wednesday, and the students from Clear Lake and Oxford Elementary had their fantastic performances on Thursday. Here's some footage from those concerts last week. Those are our fifth graders over at Clear Lake and Oxford Elementary. Those are just outstanding performances put together by Miss Peggy Mueller. The students worked hard under her direction to put together these performances, and the parents and family and audience loved it. We have just a few performances behind us now, but there are many more to go this winter season. We'll get to those dates and times in just a minute, but first let's wrap up our recap of last week. To start, I'd like to correct myself from last week's school news. I said the Oxford High School National Honor Society and leadership students collected over 9,000 donations of food for the Oxford Orion Fish Pantry. While this was technically correct, I now have the exact number, which was an outstanding 14,622 donations of food. Congratulations and thank you to the outstanding effort by those students and the community for their support. In the spirit of the holidays, the first weekend of December was packed. The Oxford Chamber of Commerce Christmas Parade held Saturday made for a great day for family time in Oxford. For coverage of that parade, catch it on air or visit our Facebook or YouTube page at Oxford Community Television. Also Saturday, the Oxford High School American Sign Language classes hosted Signing Santa in the Performing Arts Center. The Signing Santa event was a great way for children of all ages to learn a little signing while getting their Christmas wishes in with Santa. Also last week, Leonard Elementary had a special visit from OCSD K-9 Officer Brigg and his human partners. The children were grateful to hear from the officers and meet K-9 Officer Brigg. Daniel Axford played host to the Building Literacy Through Family Connections event last Thursday. That event engaged parents in learning the 5 skill areas of literacy for their students to become successful readers. A great program to help out our Oxford students and get them on the right path from the start. Out in the Oxford community, students had a blast with all of the holiday cheer and events. Last week, local first responders had another successful Shop with a Hero, a program that places children of all ages from Oxford with our local heroes for a night of toy shopping. A big thank you to everyone who worked so hard to put that event together. Last week was eventful, but let's look forward and talk about this week's school news. Monday, Clear Lake and Lakeville are back on the calendar with more concerts at the Performing Arts Center. This time it will be the Clear Lake Choir performing from 6:30 to 7:30, and the Lakeville second graders will be performing from 7:30 to 8:30. On Tuesday, Leonard first and second graders are performing at their school in the morning and starting off the night at the Performing Arts Center at 6:30. After Leonard's concert, Daniel Axford will take the stage starting at 7:30, wrapping it all up at 8:30. Also Tuesday night, there is a Board of Education meeting at the high school starting at 6:30. Moving into Wednesday, Lakeville has a PSC meeting starting at 4. Oxford Middle School and Oxford High School will be having a concert starting at 6:30 featuring the OHS Jazz Band and the OMS 7th Grade Symphonic Band. Thursday, the 5th and 6th graders take over the Performing Arts Center with their concert starting at 7 p.m. Friday, Leonard is holding their Pride Assembly starting at 3. Over the weekend, Daniel Axford is holding their PTO Santa Breakfast and Workshop on Saturday. Look forward to that. As I mentioned last week, Oxford High School is hosting ACT testing again this Saturday. Good luck to those students. Also Saturday, the Performing Arts Center will be hosting the Nutcracker performed by LA Dance at 6 p.m. That is the look at this packed week we have ahead of us here in Oxford, and many more to come. The district is bustling with events this month of December, with next week being our last week before holiday break. Next week, look forward to more and more concerts and performances, plenty of events in and around Oxford for parents and students to enjoy together, and a shortened day on Friday to start off the break. For that news and more, join me next week for school news, or keep your eyes out for Schooling Around. Wishing you, the Oxford community, a happy holidays. I'm River Tuck. Until next time, Oxford.
What's going on, Wildcat fans? Cody right back here for this week's sports report. We have some hockey and some girls basketball reviews, so let's not waste any time and take a look. So like I said last week, our boys hockey team is looking very good. We're finally building up as a program, and the last couple of years of struggle are definitely behind us. With that said, we have struggled the last 3 games just to finish with a win. The good news, though, we have just about outplayed all 3 teams as far as periods go in the little battles. We took on Notre Dame Prep this week at the Detroit Skate Club. Notre Dame Prep coming into the game 2-0. They're a very good team, but the first 2 periods we absolutely controlled the play. We controlled the pace. We were up 2-1 going into the third, but the third period we just suffered a few bad turnovers, and I mean that's all it really took. Notre Dame capitalized on those, and we ended up falling 4-2. Now this is nothing to hang our heads about. I think we got a great team this year, and I'm not just saying that. If you haven't seen these guys play, let me be the first to tell you our record so far does not reflect a thing. It's so early in the season, so it's nothing to sweat. Keep your heads up. We look forward to see where the rest of this season goes. On the flip side, the girls basketball team kicks off their season this week on the road, taking on Bloomfield Hills. The freshman team started the night off strong, taking the win 35-15. The JV team kept the ball rolling, taking the win 36-23. And the varsity club finished things off strong with a close win, 59-57. A great start to a long season. The girls will take on Walled Lake Central in their home opener on Friday. We'll have more on that next week. Also, the boys team will be kicking off their season as well on the 12th, taking on Walled Lake Central, and that's on the road. And then on the 17th, they'll kick things off at home, taking on Avondale. So we have lots to look forward to. Also lying ahead is bowling, wrestling, boys swim and dive, competitive cheer, and our ski team. So stay tuned and get ready for a long season. Anyhow, that's all for this week's report. For any more info on upcoming season openers, go to oxfordathletics.org. There's plenty of rosters, schedules, and more all right there for you to check out. Once again, that is oxfordathletics.org. While you're at it, might as well check us out at OCCTV.org. All of our coverage of these events and more can be found on our YouTube page, which you can access through the website. Once again, that is OCCTV.org. I want to thank you all for watching and remind you all to tune in next time. But until then, I'm Cody Wright. Go Wildcats.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, Takata Corporation, the auto supplier that went bankrupt after its airbag spurred the largest ever automotive recall, told U.S. safety regulators that another 1.4 million U.S. vehicles need to be repaired over a potentially deadly defect. The recall involves components produced from 1995 through 1999 and sold to Volkswagen Group's Audi, Toyota Motor Corporation, Honda, BMW AG, and Mitsubishi Motors. Takata supplied tens of millions of defective airbag inflators for years that were prone to exploding in a crash and injuring or killing occupants by spraying metal shards. The Japanese part maker pleaded guilty as part of a $1 billion settlement with the U.S. Justice Department over its handling of the issue. Past Takata recalls were blamed on its use of ammonium nitrate as a propellant used to inflate airbags. For its latest safety campaign, the company is citing a manufacturing issue that affected inflators that used a non-azide propellant. Takata said it produced and sold 4.45 million of them globally during the time period covered in the recall. According to Takata's safety recall report to NHTSA, the number of inflators it produced for vehicles sold in the U.S. was substantially smaller, but is not precisely known at this time. Because of the age of the potentially affected vehicles, only a portion remain in service, the company said. Takata was purchased in April of 2018 by a unit of China's Ningbo Joyson Electronic Group, and the combined unit was renamed Joyson Safety Systems. And at General Motors will begin retooling its Detroit Hamtramck assembly plant for electric vehicle production in February, resulting in the temporary loss of more than 800 jobs, the automaker said in a filing with the state of Michigan. The plant's 753 UAW represented hourly workers will be offered transfers likely to locations in Michigan and Ohio, GM said in a statement. As part of a $3 billion investment, GM plans to start building an electric pickup and van at Detroit Hamtramck. They would be followed by electric versions of the GMC Sierra and Cadillac Escalade, according to LMC Automotive, a closely watched provider of industry sales and production forecasts. The UAW's contract with GM says employment at the plant eventually would triple to 2,225 workers at full production. Some workers displaced by the retooling may be able to transfer back to jobs as jobs open up, but hourly employee recall rights will be determined by the provisions of their collective bargaining agreement, GM spokesman Dan Flores said. Automotive News reported last month that a lengthy layoff starting in early 2020 would be needed to make the conversion from gasoline-powered sedans to battery electric trucks. The Cadillac will stop making the Cadillac CT6 in January and the Chevrolet Impala in February. GM gave formal notice of the layoffs in a state-mandated filing November 3rd. Layoffs will begin February 28th for most of the 800 hourly, 50 subsystem, and 60 salaried workers affected. Fewer than 40 hourly workers will stay at the plant until March or April. GM said it would invest $3 billion in the plant as part of GM's 4-year labor contract with the UAW ratified in October. GM did not say when production would resume, but CEO Mary Barra last month said she expects to have an electric truck in the market by fall of 2021. LMC expects the retooling process to take about 18 months and that the plant's annual production capacity will decrease to about 100,000 vehicles from 160,000 today. Detroit Hamtramck is the only one of 4 U.S. plants targeted for closure by GM's sweeping restructuring effort detailed a year ago that was saved under the new contract. And on the recall front, FCA Chrysler Automobiles is recalling 7,200 Fiat 500 vehicles worldwide over degraded shift cable bushings. Some bushings can degrade when subjected to heat and humidity, causing the shift cable to separate from the transmission and stop shifter function, the company said in a statement on November 27th. The recall affects 2012 to 13 model year Fiat 500s. And that's over 51,000 vehicles in the U.S., over 10,000 in Canada, over 3,500 in Mexico, and 6,800 outside North America. FCA is aware of 3 minor accidents that were potentially related, but the company is not aware of any potentially related injuries, the statement said. The transmission may not shift into the selected gear, NHTSA document said, or in park, the vehicle may roll away. Customers may notice loose shifter movement if the condition occurs, FCA said, but should still use the regular parking brake gear selection. Shift cable adjusters will be replaced with a more robust bushing, a recall document said. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways.